Train travel is often seen as safe and routine, but sometimes it ends in disaster. In this video, we'll look at 5 of the most disturbing train crash deaths ever recorded. Real stories where normal days turned into deadly events. These are not accidents you forget. These are the kinds of tragedies that leave behind questions, shock, and silence. It was the afternoon of November 17, 2023, in Brasília, Brazil. Julia de Albuquerque Violato, 37, left her apartment to donate a bag of clothes to a local thrift store. She lived with her mother, Ana Rosa, and often helped others. She was expected to return later that day, but she never came home. Julia and her 72-year-old mother were extremely close. They lived and traveled together. Over time, Ana had become more dependent on Julia, who remained her steady support. That's why what happened next was so hard for her family to understand. Julia boarded a city bus for a short trip. The traffic was steady and the sky was clear. As the bus approached a railroad crossing, a train was coming from the right. A car waiting nearby caught everything on camera. The train's horn was blaring, warning of its approach. Still, the bus kept moving forward and slowly rolled onto the tracks. By the time its front wheels were over the rails, it was too late to stop. The train slammed into the side of the bus. The impact shattered windows and ripped through the vehicle. Julia, who had been sitting near the back, was thrown from her seat and ejected through a broken window. She landed on the tracks right in front of the oncoming train. She did not survive. Emergency responders from the Brasília Fire Department found Julia near the train. The damage was extreme, and nothing could be done. Her injuries were fatal. The rear section of the bus was badly damaged. Parts of it had been dragged by the train after the collision. Debris was scattered across the area. Julia wasn't the only one harmed. 5 other people were hurt. Some had serious physical injuries, others were traumatized by what they saw. Nildete Antunes Vitor, 58, had head trauma and broken bones. She was taken to the hospital. Julio Botelho Fernandez, 28, was found unconscious with a severe head injury and was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Another passenger, Janderson Rodriguez da Costa, 47, had cuts and bruises on his face and arms. His injuries weren't life-threatening, but what he witnessed stayed with him. The bus driver, Pedro Domiense Campos, 42, was not badly injured, but he experienced a mental breakdown after the crash and had to be hospitalized. A 19-year-old woman, whose name was not shared, wasn't physically hurt but was deeply affected by what she saw. She too was taken to the hospital for psychological care. Police blocked off the area. Photos and videos showed the bus wreckage and debris. Though authorities tried to protect the scene from the public, some images ended up online. The incident quickly gained national attention, and the video from the nearby car went viral. Many people were shocked by how fast it all happened and how avoidable it seemed. Ana Rosa, Julia's mother, was devastated, calling her daughter's death not a mistake but negligence. She blamed the driver for ignoring warning signs and continuing to cross. Julia had only gone out to do something kind, making the loss even harder. Ana tearfully remembered Julia as her best friend, explaining they did everything together. Julia had cared for her, even when she tried to stay active, and often expressed that she didn't want to leave before Ana. Julia, a fine arts student at the University of Brasília, was known for her kindness and open nature. Ana said she never judged anyone and believed anyone could be a friend. In the days that followed, people in Brasília demanded answers. Why did the bus cross the tracks when the train was clearly coming? Was it a mechanical issue or a human error? The video clearly showed the train sounding its horn for several seconds before the crash. Still, the bus moved forward. Officials are reviewing the footage as part of an investigation. No charges have been filed yet, but attention remains on the driver's actions. Ana Rosa plans to take legal action against the bus company. She believes the crash could have been avoided if proper caution had been taken. Across Brazil, Julia's story sparked conversations about safety, responsibility, and how quickly things can go wrong when someone makes the wrong decision. What started as a routine day ended in tragedy and left a lasting impact on those who knew and loved her. It was the evening of June 2nd, 2023, near Bahanaga Bazar Station in Odisha, India. The Coromandel Express, one of India's busiest trains, was moving at around 128 kilometers per hour. Inside, passengers were settling in, families, workers, and travelers on familiar routes or starting something new. For many, it was just another long train ride, but within moments, everything would fall apart. At about 6:55 p.m., the Coromandel Express was suddenly switched off its main track onto a loop line, where a stationary freight train filled with iron ore stood still. With no time to slow down, the Coromandel hit it head-on. The crash was devastating. 21 coaches derailed, some smashed and flipped, others torn apart. The general coaches, filled with unreserved passengers, took the worst of it. Many people were crushed or thrown from the train. Some were trapped under broken metal. But it didn't end there. Another train, the SMVT Bengaluru-Howrah Express, was coming from the opposite direction at around 126 kilometers per hour. As it neared the wreck, some derailed coaches from the Coromandel crashed into its rear, causing 3 more coaches to derail. This became a 3-train collision: the Coromandel Express, a freight train, and the Bengaluru-Howrah Express. The destruction was severe and happened in seconds. Witnesses described the scene as a nightmare. Girija Shankar Rath, a local resident, was among the first to arrive. He saw smoke, twisted coaches, and people trapped. Tutu Biswas recalled hearing a loud crash. At the site, he saw a child crying and later found out the child didn't survive. Survivors inside the trains were pinned by luggage and seats. Rupam Banerjee said local villagers helped first, pulling people out and offering water. Vandana Kaleda said her coach tilted suddenly while she was leaving the washroom. People fell over each other. For a man named Suryavir, the tragedy was personal. His mother and grandmother were on the train, traveling to get medicine. He searched for them all night. He found his grandmother alive, but in shock. His mother was missing. The next morning, he identified her through a photo someone had sent him. Over 1,200 workers responded, bringing 115 ambulances, 50 buses, and 45 mobile medical units. Crews cut through metal to reach survivors, some unconscious, others in pain, while many were beyond help. Bodies were lined up, many unidentifiable, and a nearby school became a temporary morgue as hospitals filled. Volunteers donated blood, and over 1,200 people were injured, many with life-altering wounds. By the next day, the death count was 288, later rising to 296 as more victims were found. Sudhanshu Sarangi of Odisha Fire Services said they spent the night recovering bodies, remarking that he had never witnessed anything like it. This was India's worst rail disaster in more than 20 years. It ranked 3rd in history, behind the 1995 Firozabad crash, which killed over 350. The cause was later traced to a signal error. Normally, railways use electronic systems to keep trains from crossing paths, but something went wrong. The Coromandel was never supposed to be on that loop track. Officials believe it was either a system malfunction, a maintenance issue, or human interference. A top railway official confirmed the signaling system had been altered. Investigators later suspected tampering. India's top crime agency stepped in, and 3 railway workers were arrested. Their roles are still under investigation. The crash revealed how fragile the railway system remains, despite ongoing efforts to modernize. With over 40,000 miles of track and 14,000 trains running every day, the system carries more than 13 million people daily. But problems still happen. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the site, met with responders, and promised full support. Compensation was announced, around $12,000 to families of the deceased and smaller amounts to the injured. As trains resumed, families across the country were left to grieve. Some waited at stations with photographs. Others waited with only hope. A single error set everything in motion. One wrong signal caused a crash that destroyed hundreds of lives and raised deep concerns about the safety of a system millions depend on every day. It was the evening of September 23, 2023, in Plant City, Florida, a quiet town about 25 miles from Tampa. A family of 7 was driving to a quinceañera celebration just across a set of railroad tracks. They were in a white 2020 Cadillac Escalade, but they never made it to the party. Inside the sport utility vehicle was 52-year-old Jose Guadalupe Hernandez, a truck driver with more than 4 million miles of safe driving. His wife, 50-year-old Enadelia, was next to him. In the back sat their 3 children, 22-year-old Analia, a recent college graduate, 17-year-old Alyssa, who wanted to become a doctor, and 9-year-old Julian, the youngest, who loved playing outdoors. Also with them were Alyssa's 17-year-old friend Jacob Lopez and Anelia's boyfriend, 23-year-old Guillermo Gama. At around 6:45 p.m., they reached a private railroad crossing on Jim Leffler Circle. It had no gate, lights, or sound alarms, just a stop sign and a railroad crossing sign. There were no barriers to warn drivers of an approaching train. According to authorities, surveillance footage later showed that the Escalade didn't stop. It slowly rolled forward onto the tracks, directly into the path of a freight train moving at 55 miles per hour. The train's horn and lights were activated. A nearby driver even honked to warn them. But the sport utility vehicle kept going. The train hit the vehicle with full force. Sheriff Chad Chronister described the Escalade afterward as a soft drink can that's been smashed. The vehicle was thrown into the air and flipped several times before landing away from the tracks. 5 passengers were thrown from the vehicle and lost their lives on impact. Adelia, Anelia, Alyssa, Julian, and Jakob. All had been seated in the back. Jakob, who worked at a local Chick-fil-A, was remembered by co-workers as kind and full of energy. He loved talking about his Volkswagen Beetle and often shared coffee drinks with friends. His workplace called him the kindest soul in a tribute post. Jose, the driver, initially survived and was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Despite doctors' efforts, he passed away later that night. Sheriff Chronister said the scene had deeply affected even the most experienced emergency crews. Guillermo Gama, who had been sitting in the front passenger seat, was the only survivor. He was also thrown from the vehicle and suffered serious injuries, including a brain bleed, bruised lung, and a ruptured kidney. While briefly awake, he was able to hold his mother's hand. Doctors said brain surgery wouldn't be needed, and though he was still in critical condition, his family stayed hopeful. Just before the crash, Guillermo had texted his family that he was almost at the party. When he stopped replying, they worried. His grandmother drove to the scene, fearing something was wrong. His aunt, Jennifer Cantu, said they were shocked and grateful he was still alive. She hoped that someday Guillermo might remember what happened during those final moments. Jose's niece, Leticia Hernandez, traveled from Miami after the crash. She visited the crash site, where they found some of the family's belongings, including a piece of jewelry from one of the children. The exact reason for the crash remains unclear. Investigators confirmed the sport utility vehicle never stopped at the crossing and are still reviewing video footage. Sheriff Chronister said even the word devastating didn't fully capture what happened. The family was well known in their community. Friends, co-workers, and classmates expressed their grief. Donations poured in, one fundraiser to help Guillermo's medical bills, another for funeral costs. In just 2 hours, over $3,000 had been raised. At Plant City High School, tributes to Alyssa and Jakob poured in. Teachers and classmates remembered them as kind and full of dreams. Guillermo's family continues to wait by his side. His aunt believes he will soon ask for his girlfriend, but for now he lies in a hospital bed, the lone survivor of a tragic night that changed everything. It was June 22, 2009, a hot summer afternoon in Washington, District of Columbia. Around 5 p.m., rush hour traffic packed the Metro Red Line. One of the trains, a 6-car train known as Train 112, was operated by 42-year-old Genus McMillan from Springfield, Virginia. She had been with Metro since 2007 and was proud of her role in safely transporting commuters. That day, she was nearing Fort Totten Station from Tacoma. But something went wrong. Ahead of her, Train 214 was stopped on the same track, waiting for clearance to move. Metro's automatic control system, which should have detected the stopped train and slowed down Genus's train, failed. The system falsely showed the track ahead as clear. Genus's train rounded a bend at about 45 miles per hour and suddenly faced the stopped train. She had only seconds to react. She triggered the emergency brake, but the train crashed. Train 112 slammed into Train 214, its front car lifting and crushing under the impact. Inside, passengers were thrown violently. Survivors later described it as being tossed through the air. Many were injured, some were trapped. People cried, prayed, screamed, or froze in shock. 9 people lost their lives. Dozens were hurt, some with injuries that changed their lives permanently. Genus McMillan, the operator, died in the front car, which took most of the force. Investigators confirmed she did everything she could in those last moments, but there simply wasn't enough time to stop the train. Another victim was 29-year-old Veronica DuBose, a mother of 2 on her way to nursing class who never made it off Train 112. Her children, Raja and Ava, were raised by their grandmother after the family moved to Culpeper, Virginia, seeking peace. Raja still struggles emotionally, and Ava recalls the family's tears, memories that remain with them. Carolyn had been in the hospital when the crash happened. She saw the news but didn't know Veronica was involved. Her younger daughter, Monica, had to break the news. Carolyn tore out her intravenous lines and ran through the hospital screaming for her daughter. Another passenger who didn't make it was 23-year-old Lavonda Nikki King. She had 2 young sons and was on her way home to work on her new hair salon business. Her mother, Tawanda, said Nikki had big dreams. Tawanda has raised her grandsons ever since. They now ask questions about the mother they barely remember. Each one is painful to answer. Nikki's sister, Kianda, avoids public transit altogether. She says losing her sister broke something in her. Many families never regain trust in Metro after the crash, caused by a track circuit failure that should have detected train 214. Federal investigators revealed Metro had ignored safety warnings, with 1000 series train cars flagged for replacement after a 2004 incident, but no action was taken. These older cars couldn't withstand strong impacts, and the crash exposed deeper issues within Metro's safety culture. Following the crash, Metro replaced the older cars with 7000 series models and established the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission to enforce safety improvements. Metro's leadership also changed, with General Manager Randy Clark emphasizing transparency to rebuild trust. There hasn't been a fatal accident linked to system failure in over 9 years. Still, trains continue to run manually. Though officials hope to bring back full automation, no timeline has been set. Today, near the site of the crash, Legacy Memorial Park honors the 9 victims. The park has 9 stone pillars, each representing a life lost. Names are carved into the wall, and benches offer a quiet place to remember. The victims came from different backgrounds: nurses, students, laborers, veterans, but they were all just trying to get home. It was the morning of September 29, 2016, in Hoboken, New Jersey. Fabiola Bitter de Kroon, a 34-year-old lawyer from Brazil, had just dropped off her young daughter at daycare. She spoke briefly with the staff, then left to catch her train at Hoboken Terminal. Like most commuters that morning, she was just trying to get to her destination, but something unexpected happened. At 7:23 a.m., New Jersey Transit train number 1614 left Spring Valley, New York. It was a regular commuter train on the Pascack Valley line. The train was being pushed from the back by a diesel engine with a cab car at the front. It made its scheduled stops as it moved toward its last stop, Hoboken Terminal. By 8:45 a.m., as the train approached the terminal, something went wrong. Trains are supposed to slow down to a crawl as they enter the station, but this one didn't. Witnesses said it came in at more than twice the speed limit, slammed into the bumper at the end of the track, and crashed through the barrier. The front car tore through the concourse, knocking down beams, walls, and part of the ceiling. Inside the train, passengers were thrown forward. Screams filled the air. On the platform, people were hit by falling debris or ran for cover. Fabiola had been standing nearby. She had recently moved to Hoboken with her husband and daughter and had put her career on hold to care for her family. She was standing on the platform when the train came crashing through. The impact caused part of the ceiling to fall, and heavy debris landed directly on her. She was badly injured and trapped. Nearby, a college student named Rahman Perkins had been walking by. He was running late and took a shortcut behind the terminal. As he approached, people were fleeing the scene, but Rahman ran toward the station. Inside, he saw chaos. Water was spraying from broken pipes. He joined others in clearing rubble and helping the injured. Then he noticed a pair of feet sticking out from under debris. It was Fabiola. She was still alive, but barely. Rahman stayed with her. He held her hand and encouraged her to stay strong and think about her daughter. Though she couldn't speak, she tried. Rahman said she fought to stay alive, but her injuries were too serious. She passed away before emergency crews could reach her. She was the only person who did not survive. In total, 114 people were injured. Some needed surgery. The train's engineer, Thomas Gallagher, was also hurt. The terminal was shut down after the crash. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board and the Federal Railroad Administration arrived quickly. One of the train's data recorders was damaged, but the other provided answers. Gallagher, a 48-year-old New Jersey Transit employee, said he had no memory of the crash. He believed he had been well rested and had not noticed anything unusual. But in November 2016, he was diagnosed with sleep apnea, a condition that causes breathing problems and extreme tiredness. Despite New Jersey Transit having a screening program, he had been cleared to work earlier that year. He had blacked out while operating the train. In 2018, the National Transportation Safety Board concluded the crash happened due to Gallagher's fatigue from the undiagnosed condition. New Jersey Transit was also blamed for ignoring safety procedures and failing to modernize equipment. The terminal still used old bumper blocks, and automatic braking systems were not installed. Following the crash, New Jersey Transit lowered the speed limit entering Hoboken Terminal from 10 miles per hour to 5 miles per hour. A second crew member was also made mandatory when trains entered the station. Repairs to the terminal continued until 2019. Fabiola was remembered as kind and loving. She had a master's degree in business, worked at systems, applications, and products and data processing, and was admired by friends and co-workers. Daycare staff said she always smiled when picking up her daughter. Rahman visited the hospital afterward. When he found out Fabiola hadn't made it, he said he hoped her family knew she wasn't alone. He remembered seeing peace in her eyes. Gallagher was fired, but in 2023, a legal ruling reinstated him. He now works on non-passenger trains under strict supervision. The crash lasted seconds, but the impact remains. One life was lost, over 100 were injured, and many are still recovering.